Relax, I will not disappoint you. A cold smile was lifted on Xiao Yan's face after he heard Gu Yu's hoarse voice. He slowly lifted his hand. The exquisite five-colored fire lotus began to slowly rotate faster. Sun Air, stand back? Xiao Yan turned his head and ordered Sun Air to move back. The destructive force from the extermination fire lotus was really too frightening. Even he would not be able to endure it if he stood too close. Understood. Xiao Yan Ji, be careful. Sun Air nodded. She was naturally able to sense just how frightening the fire lotus in Xiao Yan's hand was. However, she was not overly worried as her body moved and swiftly retreated. We should also pull further back. Gu Qingyang waved his hand after seeing Sun Air hurry over. His expression was grave as he led everyone to withdraw an even greater distance. Xiao Yan, this is perhaps the first time that you have fought an elite band Sheng, right? In that case, allow the old me to tell you just how enormous and irrevocable the difference between a Do Zun and a Do Sheng is. The eyes of the black skeleton flickered as a chilly voice was slowly emitted. Xiao Yan faintly smiled. He flicked his finger, and the extermination lotus flame in his hand suddenly began to rotate at even faster. A moment later, it suddenly turned into a glowing ball that shot away from his palm. No sound was emitted as it flew, but everywhere it passed quietly collapsed. A huge black spatial crack continuously appeared behind the flame. The extermination lotus flame did not display an overly soul-stirring momentum, but in the eyes of a genuine expert, that beautiful fire lotus was like the stickle of a death god, causing one to feel an extremely rich aura of death. Two clusters of serene green light were present deep within the skeleton's eyes. Those eyes stared at the fire lotus as it literally tore through space and headed his way. A black vapor was slowly spat out of his body. 10,000 soul bone armor. After the hoarse, elderly voice was transmitted from the black skeleton's mouth, waves after waves of dense black fog suddenly began to erupt from his body in all directions. Sharp, miserable screeches reverberated across the sky. The black fog was clearly being formed by many spiritual bodies. All of these souls began to adhere to the skeleton's body the moment they appeared. Black light surged and a bone armor with a black luster finally appeared around the skeleton's body. There were tons of tiny bone fragments on the bone armor. These bone fragments possessed many ferocious faces. Looking from afar, these ferocious faces had gathered into 100-foot-large face. The face was filled with pain, causing the hairs on one's body to stand on end after looking at it. Xiao Yan, this elderly self shall see whether that fire lotus of yours, which is claimed to be incomparably powerful by those useless fellows, is able to break this 10,000 soul bone armor of mine. The black skeleton suddenly lifted its head after the bone armor formed. It looked at the fire lotus as it tore through the air. An elderly voice soon made a claim that echoed over the sky. Swoosh! St. Gu Yu's hoarse voice had just sounded when the fire lotus suddenly arrived. It heavily collided with the enormous bone armor in front of many pairs of eyes. Bang! The grassland was quiet the instant the collision occurred. It was as though even the wind had disappeared. However, this silence only lasted a moment before a soul-stirring explosion occurred that caused the land and sky to shake. A 10,000-foot-large firestorm suddenly spread from the point of collision. A large part of space collapsed into many dark holes as a frightening gale came pouring down. Sand rose and rocks flew, and everyone could see the ground within a 10,000-foot radius peeled off at a speed visible to the naked eye. Large cracks continued to spread from deep underground, appearing as though an earthquake had occurred. A paleness surfaced on the faces of everyone present as they watched the extermination storm sweep across the sky. Jiufeng, Hanyu, and the rest of their groups displayed unusually ugly expressions. None of them could imagine that Xiao Yan was able to unleash such a frightening attack with his 9-change peak Do Zun strength. A Fire Lotus explosion at this level was something that even an ordinary Tian-class middle-level Do skill could not achieve. AO! A destructive firestorm radiated across the sky. That enormous Heaven Phoenix illusory figure floating in the sky was also struck by this force. Its huge body trembled before it emitted a bang and exploded into nothing in front of Jiao Feng's shocked eyes. Grug! Jiao Feng spat out a mouthful of fresh blood after the Heaven Phoenix illusory figure was shattered. His expression was pale. Clearly, he had suffered a terrible backlash. Bang! The firestorm in the sky, which was filled with a destructive ripple, began to sweep wildly around. Any living creature that was within the area it spread to suffered a decisive blow. Those surrounding experts were so shocked that they hurriedly fled into the distance. None of them dared to approach an area where the flames could reach. Xiao Yan stood in the distant sky and watched the extremely beautiful firestorm, but his expression did not relax. This was the first time he had fought against an elite Do Sheng. Although the Extermination Fire Lotus was extremely powerful, he also understood just how terrifying a Ban Sheng was. These old demon-like existences were quite powerful even within the Hun clan and other ancient clans. If one claimed they could be defeated this easily, one would have underestimated this so-called Sheng class experts. The firestorm that swept across the sky finally weakened under everyone's roaming eyes. After this storm weakened, space itself, where many holes had formed, slowly began to recover. Xiao Yan's eyes stared intently at the middle of the firestorm. As the firestorm weakened, 100-foot-tall black skeleton once again appeared in front of everyone's line of sight. It has managed to endure the attack. A wild joy erupted within the eyes of the experts from the Hun clan after seeing the black skeleton still standing in the sky. On the other hand, those from the other parties felt their hearts sink. Even such a powerful attack was unable to do any damage. Was an elite Ban Sheng really so powerful? Xiao Yan's expression tensed dull. His eyes did not blink as they stared at the huge black skeleton. He did not believe that the Extermination Fire Lotus was unable to damage Guyu. Crack! The surface of the black skeleton in the sky suddenly emitted a slight cracking sound in front of Xiao Yan's intense gaze. A broken piece of bone armor suddenly fell as some stunned eyes watched. Crack, crack. After the first piece of bone armor fell, an increasing number of bone armor fragments began to scatter down like snow. Many cracks quickly began to appear on the enormous body of the black skeleton. Finally, that large bone armor emitted a bang as it was blasted into bone fragments that scattered. The great joy with the eyes of those people from the Hun clan quickly stilled upon seeing the bone armor break. The bone armor shattered, revealing the actual body of the skeleton. However, the black skeleton's body, which was as hard as metal, began to be filled with densely packed crack lines. A gentle breeze blew across the sky, and the green light in the skeleton's eyes vanished with a puff. Puff! The black skeleton slowly turned into ashes that scattered with the wind in front of many stunned eyes the moment the two clusters of light vanished. Grug! The unmoving body of Guyu in the distance suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood when the skeleton turned into dust. Those hollow eyes had regained a green glow. His face was pale. Guyu rubbed the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. He slowly lifted his head and spoke in a dense voice. "All right, no wonder you were able to force those people to return in defeat. Xiao Yan, you really do have some ability. Even though you seriously injured me, I will still take that little life of yours." Sizzle! Guyu's dense cry had just sounded when a golden light appeared in front of him with lightning-like speed that caught him off guard. A fist that seemed to be made out of gold ruthlessly smashed toward Gu Yu's head while accompanied by a terrifying wind. Humph! This sudden lightning-like attack caused Gu Yu to feel a little absent-minded. Fortunately, he recovered. He forcefully suppressed the injuries within his body as he swiftly swung his hand out, after which his hand collided with the enormous golden fist. Clang! The two collided, and a clear metallic sound immediately rang through the sky. That enormous golden body staggered back over a dozen steps. That fist, which seemed to be made of gold, had gained a half-inch deep handprint. The retaliation ability of an elite band Sheng, even one who was seriously injured, was quite frightening. You are a little lacking if you wish to kill the old me. Guyu was forced to take a step back, but he quickly stabilized his body. His eyes were dark and cold as he looked at the golden human figure a short distance away. With his eyesight, he was naturally able to recognize Xiao Yin even after he had unleashed a body-modifying dose skill. Since you have already used the fire lotus you are so proud of, you should now come with the old me. Gu Yu's face was filled with a ferocity. It had never occurred to him that he would be seriously injured by someone from the younger generation. He also understood that he was a little arrogant this time around. If his soul had not escaped, he would have ended up suffering an injury which could not be healed from that terrifying fire lotus. Gu Yu's large hand suddenly grabbed at Xiao Yin after he uttered those words. A black hand suddenly appeared in front of Xiao Yin and grabbed at the golden giant he had transformed into. Qi. However, the space behind Xiao Yin suddenly fluctuated when the large black hand was wrapping around him. A spatial crack appeared, and a familiar elderly figure slowly walked out. His faint voice reverberated over the land. Gu Yu, aren't you embarrassed to attack a member of the younger generation despite of your status? Gu Yu was startled when he saw this elderly figure suddenly appear. He uttered a name in a dark and solemn voice. Yao Chun. Teacher, why are you here? Xiao Yin was similarly stunned because of Yao Lao's appearance. His powerful voice was filled with a strangeness. He had yet to shatter the spatial scroll that Yao Lao had given him. You have stayed in the ancient region for too long, and I was a little worried. Hence, I found time to hurry over. Unexpectedly, I have found you in this situation. Yao Lao was suspended in front of Xiao Yin. He smiled faintly before his eyes swept over Xiao Yin. A pleased expression surfaced in his eyes as he said, Your strength has increased within a few short months. You have really exceeded my expectations. Sun Er's group in the distance sighed in relief when they saw Yao Lao suddenly appear. Gu Yu, you can be considered part of the older generation with some reputation in the Central Plains. Haven't you been a little too shameless today? Yao Lao's eyes landed on Gu Yu as he slowly questioned. There is no such thing as being shameless in the eyes of my Hun clan. We will use all tricks as long as we complete our mission. It is really a joke for you to say these words to this elderly self. Gu Yu's expression was gloomy as he coldly laughed. Ha ha, I have forgotten the degree of depravity that you people are capable of. Yao Lao laughed after hearing Gu Yu's reply. He continued with a faint smile. Bullying a member of the younger generation does not show off your capabilities. Why don't the two of us fight? What do you say? Gu Yu's face twitched. Both he and Yao Lao were experts at the Bansheng class. If he were at his peak, it would be difficult to predict just who would be victorious, but he wasn't at his peak. His chances of victory in a fight against Yao Lao would not exceed 30%. Yao Chun, you should not act arrogantly in front of me. The experts within my Hun clan are not something your falling star pavilion can compare with. What can you do if the old me summons another old ghost from my clan? Although Gu Yu was unable to beat Yao Lao, he was unwilling to soften his stance as he coldly laughed. Our Gu clan is not afraid of you if you wish to fight in terms of numbers. Gu Yu's words had just sounded when Sun Er's group quickly flew over. They appeared behind Yao Chun. She clenched her hand. A spatial scroll appeared in it before it was quickly shattered. A spatial fluctuation spread, after which a spatial crack appeared, and an elderly figure slowly stepped out in front of the ugly expressions of Gu Yu's group. "Ha! It is unexpected that this place is so lively." A familiar laugh subsequently appeared after that elderly figure stepped out. Elder Tong Xian? Xiao Yan was slightly startled when he saw this figure. This elder was Elder Tong Xian, whom Xiao Yan had met in the Gu realm. "Ha! Xiao Yan, we meet again." Elder Tong Xian smiled at Xiao Yan. His eyes quickly swept over Xiao Yan's body, and some surprise flashed within them. It was a long while later before he turned to Yao Lao beside him and laughed. "This must be Yao Zunjia, the one whose name shook the Central Plains back then, right?" Currently, it seems more suitable to call you Saint Yao." Yao Lao merely cupped his hands together when he heard Elder Tong Xian's laughing voice. His face was full of smiles as he uttered a couple of courteous words in reply. Elder Tong Xian, Gu Qingyang by the side waited until Elder Tong Xian had spoken with Xiao Yan and the others before softly summarizing the events that had occurred. "The Hun clan is becoming more arrogant." Elder Tong Xian knit his brow after hearing Gu Qingyang's summary. He stared at Gu Yu with somewhat unfriendly eyes. Gu Yu's expression became a little unnatural after being looked at by Elder Tong Xian and Yao Lao. Both were elite Banshungs. He might be able to rely on the strength of the Hun clan and show no fear against the Falling Star Pavilion, but he needed to be more cautious when facing the Gu clan. This clan, which was extremely old, possessed a very powerful strength. Hun Yu and the Hun clan's experts flew to Gu Yu. Their expressions were a little ugly as they looked at the other party's lineup. This current situation had caused their advantage evaporate. "Elder Gu Yu, do we need to summon other experts from the clan?" Hun Yu softly inquired. Gu Yu's eyes flashed. He asked, "Have you seen the Bodhisattva heart?" Hun Yu was startled after hearing this question. He hesitantly shook his head. "No." Gu Yu knit his brow when he heard this reply. He gently exhaled and said, "In that case, let's leave. The members of the Gu clan are also here. If we summon other experts over, they will also do the same. At that time, we will definitely expose some of our strength. This will not benefit us." Hun Yu's heart felt somewhat unwilling when he heard that Gu Yu planned to give up, but he also understood the current situation. Gu Yu had been seriously injured by Xiao Yan's frightening Fire Lotus earlier. It was difficult for him to deal with just a single elite Bansheng. Moreover, the other party currently had 2 Banshungs. Although the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe also possessed Bansheng-class demons, they would be unwilling to become enemies with a faction like the Gu clan given that they were frivolous birds. Hence, Jufeng could not be relied on to summon experts to support them. "Xintong, there is no need for you to utter such nonsense. Once I make a full recovery, the old me will accompany you in whatever you wish to do." Gu Yu's eyes were dark and cold as they stared at Elder Xintong. Elder Xintong smiled when he heard these words, but he did not pay them any heed. He could hear Gu Yu's intent to retreat in his words, so he did not try to be overboard. He also understood that it was impossible for them to really hold Gu Yu's group back. The retaliation from an elite band Sheng prior to death was quite frightening. Additionally, Gu Yu's group definitely possessed more spatial scrolls that could summon other experts from their clan. If they were to end up in a stalemate, the experts from both clans would be forced to appear. Additionally, Xiao Yan, Yao Chun, I will remind you that none of those my Hall of Souls wishes to capture can escape. The Falling Star Pavilion is destined to be turned into ruins by my Hun clan. You should enjoy your time while you can." Gu Yu's dense eyes swung to Xiao Yan and Yao Lao as he made a threat. "There is no need for you to be worried about this. My Falling Star Pavilion is a tough bone. If your Hall of Souls really wishes to take a bite, we will definitely shatter a few of your teeth." Yao Lao laughed. Their relationship with the Hall of Souls was at the point where neither would rest until the other was dead. It was pointless to use any softer tones. Since this was the case, what was the point of giving the Hall of Souls any face? Hopefully, you will be able to still utter these words when my Hall of Souls army reaches you. Guyu coldly laughed and then ceased speaking. His eyes ruthlessly glanced at Xiao before he turned around and took the lead to rush out of the ancient wasteland region. Han Yu and the other experts from the Han clan could only follow behind him in dissatisfaction. The group from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe did not dare to remain after seeing Han Yu's group leave in a dispirited manner. They hurriedly followed close behind. Xiao felt a little regretful as he watched those people fleeing within the blink of an eye. He sighed, "What a pity. We did not cause the Hall of Souls to suffer a loss other than seriously injuring Guyu." "Ha, you are already quite incredible to injure an elite band, Sheng," Yao Lao laughed. "There is nothing we can do if they wish to leave. The Han clan is too powerful. If we were to engage in an all-out battle, we would be the ones who end up suffering." Brother Yao Chun is right. The Han clan is mysterious and unfathomable. It is extremely difficult to deal with them. Even our Gu clan does not dare to corner them. Being able to frighten them off is not a bad ending. Elder Tong Xian by the side laughed in agreement. He glanced at everyone and voiced his thoughts. However, since the matter of the Bodhisattva ancient tree has come to an end, we will need to hurry back to the Gu realm. It is not easy to get those old fellows to let Sun Er come out. If we delay for too long, they will end up hurrying us. An unwillingness flashed across Sun Er's pretty eyes when she heard his words, but she also understood that those old fellows from the clan were worried about allowing her stay in the outside world before she reached the Doshang class. She looked at Xiao and softly said, "Xiao Gigi, you should be careful. The Han clan is extremely narrow-minded, and they will take revenge for any grudge. This time around, you have caused them to suffer a great loss. They will definitely not be able to hold back this anger. Once they are free, they will deal with the falling star pavilion." Xiao slightly nodded. He also understood that there was a large gap in strength between a super faction like the Han clan and the growing falling star pavilion. It would give Xiao an extreme headache if the Han clan launched attack with their army. "It seems that I must immediately undertake a retreat to refine the Bodhisattva heart and advance to a Ban Sheng once I return. Otherwise, the Falling Star Pavilion will be in danger when the Han clan attacks." Relax. My Gu clan has been monitoring the actions of the Han clan. We will receive word if they make any major movements. Moreover, they would need to at least dispatch 2 elite band Shengs to destroy this new Falling Star Pavilion. This lineup is something that the Han clan has not revealed for many years. Therefore, you need not be overly worried. Elder Tong Xian laughed. If that day really comes, the Gu clan will not simply stand idly by the side. You possess the ancient jade on you. We will not simply watch it fall into the hands of the Han clan. In that case, we will trouble Elder Tong Xian. Xiao smiled and replied, "It is a small matter." Elder Tong Xian waved his hand and said, "It is already quite late. We should get moving. Let's meet again." Elder Tong Xian cupped his hands to Yao Lao after uttering some words. Before anyone could speak, he waved his sleeve, and a spatial strength spread and wrapped around Sun Er's group, after which they swiftly disappeared. Xiao sighed while feeling lost as he watched Sun Er's group vanish. His eyes immediately shifted to the land outside of the ancient wasteland region. He softly said, "Let's go. It is time to return." After the matter of the Bodhisattva ancient tree was over, Xiao group did not continue to stay in this damn wasteland for long. They set off and spent a couple of days traveling before reaching the Falling Star Pavilion. Xiao was undoubtedly the one who had obtained the most during this trip to the ancient wasteland region. Not only did he enjoy the legendary meditation beneath the Bodhisattva ancient tree, the Bodhisattva heart had also hid itself within his body. Of course, one should not forget the 11 pure bodhisattva seeds remaining in his hands. Forget about the benefits the two other things gave Xiao. Just the 11 bodhisattva seeds alone was already an extremely rich reward. If one were to randomly take out any one of these bodhisattva seeds, many Pekdo Zun experts' eyes would turn red with envy. They did not care about its other properties. Its ability to raise one's chances of advancing to the Bansheng class was enough to cause those top experts in the eyes of ordinary people to go crazy. Xiao might have gained a rich reward this time around, but the thing that he was most happy about was that he managed to prevent Han Yu's group from gaining anything. Xiao involuntarily felt the impulse to laugh each time. He thought about how Han Yu's group had spent a great effort to hurry to the ancient wasteland region only to return with nothing. Falling Star Pavilion. Xiao group rested for a full week after returning from the ancient wasteland region before they finally recovered. This trip to the ancient region had not been relaxing. If the bodhisattva seed in Xiao storage ring had not luckily woken him from the illusion, all of them would have descended into that extremely lifelike illusion forever. In the end, they would have turned into existences similar to those Bansheng puppets. Even though Xiao had managed to survive, he still felt a chill in his heart when he thought of the lifelike illusion. That illusion was really too frightening. Xiao did not refine the bodhisattva heart immediately after returning to the Falling Star Pavilion because he understood that it was too important. He needed to refine it perfectly. Absolutely nothing could go wrong. While adopting this attitude, Xiao spent a lot of effort to reach his peak condition during a 1-month period of time. At the same time, both he and Yao Lao tried their best to prepare things that would increase his chances of advancing to the Bansheng class, regardless of whether they were medicinal pills or natural treasures. Everyone understood that the stringer of the Falling Star Pavilion would undoubtedly soar if Xiao successfully advanced to the Bansheng class. 2 Banshengs was a lineup that even the profound Sky sect and the other extremely old sects were unable to take out. While Xiao was awaiting for his peak condition to arrive, Yao Lao had left for half a month. After half a month, his tired elderly self once again appeared in front of Xiao and handed him a box. Xiao received the box while feeling surprised. After he carefully opened the jade box, he discovered an emerald green little squirrel hiding within it. An extremely rich pill fragrance spread from the squirrel's body. Just a whiff would cause someone to relax. This is the Bodhisattva pill? Xiao stared at the little squirrel for a moment. Only then did he lift his head and ask in a somewhat stunned voice. He could sense a familiar aura within this little squirrel's body. That's right. Yao Lao smiled and nodded. The smile on his face hid his tiredness as he spoke in a somewhat regretful manner. Unfortunately, this Bodhisattva pill only summoned an 8-colored pill lightning. Otherwise, its medicinal effects would have been even more impressive. However, you possess the Bodhisattva heart in your body. Adding the help of this Bodhisattva pill should allow you to successfully break through to the Bansheng class. Xiao felt something blocking his heart as he observed Yao Lao's elderly face. The reason Yao Lao had disappeared for half a month was because he had gone out to find a place to refine this bodhisattva seed for Xiao. Xiao Yao's chances of successfully refining a medicinal pill of this tier were a little low. Xiao understood that Yao Lao's abilities were enough to attract a 9-colored pill lightning for this bodhisattva pill, but Yao Lao lacked a good flame. If Yao Lao still possessed the bone-chilling flame, attracting a 9-colored pill lightning would be extremely easy. Yao Lao had quietly contributed a lot to this disciple of his. Teacher, thank you. Xiao hugged the jade box. He inhaled a deep breath of air and softly uttered his thanks. Haha, there is no need to say these things between a teacher and disciple. Yao Lao shook his head and said, You should relax and undertake a retreat. Leave the matters of the Falling Star Pavilion and the Yin Alliance to me. I will not allow anything to happen to them. The most important thing for you is to quickly advance to the Bansheng class. Otherwise, you will not possess the ability to subdue the purifying demon Lotus Flame when it appears in 3 years. That heavenly flame is too frightening. Xiao Yin quietly nodded. This was an obstacle that could completely transform him. If he managed to overcome it, he would truly reach the level of the peak experts within the continent. If he failed, he would be left among upper-tier experts. He wouldn't be able to retaliate against the greatness of the Hun clan with such strength. Moreover, Xiao Yin had chased after the purifying demon Lotus Flame for over a decade. It was impossible for him to give it up. The purifying demon Lotus Flame would play a critical role in deciding whether he could fight against the Hun clan, so he needed to obtain the purifying demon Lotus Flame at all costs. You should relax and undertake your retreat. Leave the matter of raising Kai Lin's, the little fairy doctors, and Qing Lin's strength to me. All of them are extraordinary ladies. As long as they possess a suitable opportunity, their strength will definitely rise very quickly. They will not hold you back once you exit your retreat. Yao Lao patted Xiao Yan's shoulder, after which he turned around. Kai Lin, the little fairy doctor, and Qing Lin were all present, but they did not interrupt the conversation between a teacher and his disciple. Xiao Yin gently nodded. He hesitated for a moment before he pulled a jade bottle out of his storage ring. There was a layer of fire around the mouth of the bottle. One could vaguely sense a weak soul within the bottle. Teacher, this is Han Feng's soul. You will have to deal with it. Xiao Yin handed the jade bottle to Yao Lao as he softly informed his teacher. Yao Lao's face was slightly startled after hearing this. His eyes were complicated as he looked at the jade bottle. There was some sorrow in them. No matter what had happened, he had once viewed Han Feng like his own son. He had personally raised Han Feng from an abandoned orphan to an adult and had taught him all he knew. However, Han Feng's plot against him had caused him, who had once been abandoned by his clan, to suffer. The pain from being betrayed was many times more worse than losing his body. Yao Lao's shriveled hand trembled as he received the jade bottle. He did not say anything as he slowly nodded. Xiao Yin felt some grief while he observed the old face of the man in front of him as it appeared more desolate and older. He swung his sleeve and his knees knelt onto the ground. He kowtowed twice before speaking in a deep voice. Teacher has taught and groomed me. You are my teacher and like a father to me. This disciple will help teacher take revenge for all the humiliation and pain you have suffered. Yao Lao was startled when he saw Xiao Yin suddenly kowtow. He hurriedly stepped forward and tried to lift him to his feet. Before he could support Xiao Yin up, Kai Lin hugged Xiao as she quietly knelt beside Xiao Yin. She was Xiao Yan's wife, and Xiao Yin viewed Yao Lao like his father, so she naturally viewed him the same. Regardless of how cold and stubborn her character was, she understood that she should listen to her man sometimes. Ugh, you little fellow colon. Yao Lao helplessly shook his head as his eyes became a little moist. The desolate expression on his face had paled. At this moment, he understood that the heavens had not abandoned him. He might have been blind once, but he was not blind a second time. He could even abandon his old life for this disciple. Grand teacher. Xiao widened her black gem-like eyes and looked at Yao Lao. Her crisp voice caused a smile to surface on the faces of everyone present. Ah, good Xiao. Yao Lao's face was involuntarily filled with joy when he heard her words. He hurriedly lifted Xiao into a hug from Kai Lin's embrace. After which, he looked at Xiao Yin and Kai Lin. He laughed. Quickly get up. These old bones of mine are merely having some random thoughts. The both of you are already quite old. Don't tell me that you are afraid that I might end up committing suicide? Xiao Yin smiled upon hearing these words. He stood up and helped Kai Lin to her feet. Holding the jade box in his hand, he turned his head to look at a large stone room hidden within the mountain. He said, "It is already time. I should enter. There is no telling just how long I will be in this retreat, but I think that it will be quite long. All of you should listen to teacher's instructions during this period of time. Understood. Kai Lin, the little fairy doctor, and the rest nodded slightly upon hearing Xiao Yan's suggestion. Teacher, take care. Xiao Yan inhaled a deep breath of air. He faced Yao Lao and cupped his hands together in a solemn manner, after which he did not delay any longer. He turned around with the jade box and slowly stepped through the thick stone door in front of everyone's eyes. Bang! After Xiao Yan walked in, that enormous stone door also slowly shut. Finally, it smashed against the ground, lifting some dust in the process. Everyone became quiet as they looked at the enormous stone door. They had a premonition that Xiao Yan's retreat would last for a long time. Let's go. Next, we will wait for him to successfully become a Ban Sheng. Yao Lao softly sighed, after which he waved his hand, hugged Xiao Xiao, and slowly left. Kai Lin and the others quickly followed behind him. However, none of them had expected that this retreat would take a full 2 years.